Look down at your hand, or the hand of someone you know. Chances are, there's a diamond ring sitting on one of those fingers. You've been told it's a rare, precious gemstone. You've been told it's the ultimate symbol of eternal love, and you've probably been told you need to spend a massive chunk of your savings just to get one. What if I told you that every single one of those beliefs is a fabricated lie? Diamonds are not incredibly rare. Their astronomical price tag is entirely artificial. And the tradition of giving a diamond engagement ring? It wasn't a romantic tradition born out of ancient history. It was a calculated, desperate business strategy designed to save a dying industry. This is the story of the greatest marketing illusion ever pulled on the human race. The story of how one cartel, De Beers, convinced the entire world to buy overpriced rocks. To understand the sheer scale of this manipulation, we have to go back to the late 19th century. Before the 1870s, diamonds actually were quite rare. They were found mostly in the riverbeds of India and the jungles of Brazil, reserved only for European royalty and the ultra-wealthy. But then, miners in South Africa stumbled upon a massive crater overflowing with diamonds. We're talking tons of them. Suddenly, the market was flooded by the basic laws of supply and demand. The massive influx of these stones meant their value was about to plummet. If everyone could have a diamond, they would be essentially worthless. The investors behind these South African mines panicked. They knew that diamonds had absolutely no intrinsic value. They aren't particularly useful, they don't produce yield, and you can't eat them. Their only value was their perceived scarcity. Enter Cecil Rhodes, an ambitious British businessman who realized that the only way to save the diamond industry was complete, ruthless control. He began buying up the claims of all the independent prospectors in South Africa, eventually merging them into a single, massive entity, De Beers Consolidated Mines. By the early 20th century, De Beers controlled roughly 90% of the world's rough diamond production, but having a monopoly wasn't enough. To keep prices artificially sky-high, De Beers had to create the ultimate illusion of scarcity. They set up a syndicate that tightly controlled exactly how many diamonds were released into the market each year. If they had a surplus, they didn't lower prices. They literally locked millions of carats away in massive vaults. They restricted the supply so strictly that the world continued to believe these shiny pebbles were incredibly hard to come by. But controlling the supply was only half the battle. By the time the 1930s rolled around, De Beers faced a brand new, terrifying threat: the Great Depression. The global economy had collapsed, and nobody was spending their dwindling cash on shiny rocks. Worse still, the younger generation viewed diamonds as a frivolous luxury for the ultra-rich, not a necessity for the average person. Sales hit rock bottom. De Beers realized they couldn't just rely on hoarding supply anymore. They had to aggressively manufacture demand. They had to somehow convince the everyday working man that he absolutely needed to buy a diamond. In 1938, De Beers hired the prominent New York advertising agency, Ayer. Their mission was unprecedented: change the social fabric of America. They didn't just want to promote a brand. They wanted to create a cultural imperative. Ayer realized that to make diamonds essential, they had to link them to something fundamentally human. They chose love. Specifically, the institution of marriage. Before this, engagement rings were often made of rubies, sapphires, or just plain gold bands. Ayer launched a massive psychological campaign to change that. They gave diamonds to movie stars to wear in hit film. They placed stories and photos in magazines, showing celebrities proposing with massive diamond rings. They even infiltrated high schools, giving lectures to young girls about how a diamond was the ultimate proof of a man's devotion. But the true stroke of genius came in 1947 from a young copywriter named Frances Garrity. She penned 4 words that would permanently alter human behavior: "A diamond is forever." It is widely considered the greatest advertising slogan of the 20th century, but it wasn't just catchy. It was incredibly strategic. You see, De Beers had a massive problem: the secondary market. If people bought diamonds and then resold them a few years later, it would create a parallel market of cheaper diamonds, completely destroying De Beers' carefully controlled pricing monopoly. A diamond is forever solved this instantly. It instilled the belief that an engagement ring is an eternal symbol of your marriage. You don't sell it, you pass it down. You keep it in a family safe. By making it socially unacceptable to resell a diamond, they effectively removed all sold diamonds from the global supply. They convinced the public to permanently hoard their product for them. With supply restricted and demand artificially linked to romance, De Beers executed their final, most audacious trick: They told the world exactly how much to pay through targeted advertisements. They introduced a totally fabricated rule. They began running ads suggesting that 2 months' salary was the standard, appropriate amount a man should spend on an engagement ring. There was no historical basis for this. There was no economic reasoning behind it. It was pure psychological anchoring. They essentially told consumers, if you want to prove your love, here is the exact financial penalty you must endure. And the crazy part? Society swallowed it whole. Men felt inadequate if they spent less, and women felt undervalued if the rock wasn't big enough. De Beers had successfully monetized human insecurity. Today, the De Beers monopoly has fractured, and lab-grown diamonds are finally introducing real competition to the market. But the cultural programming remains deeply embedded. Millions of people around the globe still walk into jewelry stores, ready to hand over a massive chunk of their hard-earned money for a stone that is neither rare nor intrinsically valuable. We do it because over a century ago, a cartel of businessmen in South Africa and a clever ad agency in New York decided that we should. They didn't just sell us a product, they sold us an idea. They proved that with enough money and psychological manipulation, you can convince the entire world that a common rock is a priceless necessity.